Counsel.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please tell the jury your first and last name?
My first name is Alia, last name is Goodheart.
Can you spell your first name for the record?
Alia.
And your last name, please.
Goodheart.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a psychiatrist.
And can you tell us a little bit about your educational background to be a psychiatrist?
I got my medical degree from the State University of New York in Brooklyn, the Health Sciences Center, and I came to Boston to do my 4-year residency at the Harvard Longwood Psychiatry Residency Program. I also trained for an additional 3 years at the Boston Psychoanalytic Institute and got my advanced training I attended the advanced training program, and yeah.
Are you licensed here in Massachusetts to practice as a psychiatrist?
I am.
Are you licensed in any other states?
No.
Okay. So you said that you're a medical doctor with a specialization in psychiatry, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your work history in that field?
Yes. I've worked in several different settings. When I first started out, I was working at Beth Israel in integrated care, which means essentially that you work with primary care physicians, and if they have patients that they have questions about, they can consult you. And if there's a need, you can continue to manage the patient's psychopharm medications. And if it's simple, they can continue to do it, but you're available for them to consult with and to discuss cases. After that, I went to Emerson Hospital, where I worked on the inpatient psychiatric unit for a total of 9 years. I left for 1 year to be the medical director at another freestanding hospital. After that, I worked at the women's prison in Framingham for 1.5 years. And after that, an outpatient clinic affiliated with Tufts. I had a private practice for 2 years, and then I've been working at McLean for the last 5 years.
Okay. And what is McLean Hospital?
It's a freestanding psychiatric hospital that is part of the Mass General Brigham system.
What kind of services does that facility offer to patients?
They have lots of services, including inpatient, outpatient, substance abuse, trauma-focused. There are lots of specializations, eating disorder programs. They have residential programs. They have partial programs. So there's a really broad width of.
And what is your role at McLean?
I work on one of the inpatient psychiatric units.
And tell us a little bit about what an inpatient psychiatric unit is.
Patients who come to our unit are referred to us by the emergency department because it's been determined that they need inpatient level of care. You can come voluntarily or you can be sent involuntarily. And once you arrive, we work with the patient until, they're for a certain period of time, which isn't predetermined. It is flexible, so it depends on what's going on. And when you're on an inpatient unit, it's not just that you're seeing the psychiatrist, you're working as a team. So there are nurses, there are mental health workers, there are social workers. And the way it works at McLean is that every day you have a meeting where people discuss what's been going on, and you share any information that you have, and that kind of guides treatment. It's if I'm on the unit while I see the patient, I'm not there 24/7, but the mental health staff and the nursing staff are there, and they contribute to the assessment of the patient.
So in that team approach, when you have mental health workers, nurses, social workers that work with you, there's, fair to say, some combination of that team present all the time.
Yes, there are 3 shifts, and each shift has mental health workers and nurses.
And in that team approach, sometimes particular members of that team may have direct contact with the patient, correct?
Absolutely. Each shift, each patient is assigned a mental health worker and a nurse. They're offered a check-in, which is basically time to sit and talk about how they're doing and what's going on and if they're upset or distressed. And so, there is documentation of that, and that happens on a regular basis.
And even when members of the particular treatment team don't have direct contact with the patient, they're still there and observing what's going on, right?
Correct.
And are they trained to do that?
Absolutely.
And so even if they don't have a conversation with somebody that's documented, they're still observing to be able to report back if there's any concerns that they observe during any given shift. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that the inpatient unit at McLean, that they come from the ER departments of the surrounding hospitals?
Yes.
So you can't just walk in?
Not at McLean.
For the inpatient, in any...
Right, correct.
Okay. And so oftentimes when a patient comes from the emergency department or is referred over there, how do they get there?
They have to be sent on a Section 12 most of the time. Well, then it doesn't make sense. So they're usually sent on a Section 12, especially if they're going to be sent in an ambulance. And then when they arrive at McLean, they are seen at the CEC, which is the Clinical Evaluation Center.
If I could just stop for you for one second. Can you tell us what a Section 12 is?
A Section 12 is basically a doctor or social worker or psychologist states that you are being referred to a hospital for admission because you have a mental health condition.
And the Section 12 could be something that the patient voluntarily elects to do, right?
That's a Section 10. The Section 12 is it means that you have to go there. If you go there and they evaluate that you're fine and you decide you don't want to be at the hospital, you can choose to leave and they'll have to let you go.
So when you say that a person comes transported from an ER on a Section 12, they also can come transported on a 10 as well, a voluntary?
A Section 12 is required for transportation because in the time between when they leave the hospital and they're supposed to get to you, you want to make sure that something could happen and then they could leave. So you want to make sure that the physician sees them at that end and then somebody sees them at the other end to ensure that something hasn't changed. So it's evaluation.
Okay. And at the emergency department, there is a particular type of evaluation that's done before somebody is sent over to McLean, correct?
Correct.
From the Mass General, what is that usually referred to?
It's called the acute psychiatric consultation, APS. No. So the service is acute psychiatric services, and it's an evaluation. So it's a complete evaluation by either a nurse practitioner or a psychiatrist. And they go over things like, why are you coming now? What is your history? Have you ever had problems before? What's your family history? They document how you're presenting. They inquire about symptoms. And that's how they find out what medications you're on. And then based on that, they decide whether you need, there could be several options. They can recommend inpatient treatment. They can recommend partial hospital program. But the patient doesn't have to do either. If they're not, unsafe, they can choose to leave. But most of the time, people take the recommendation and they've presented because they are seeking help.
And unless the patient is deemed unsafe in that involuntary realm, it's their choice.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned that when they come to McLean, that they first come through and have a CEC. What is that?
It's a clinical evaluation center.
What happens at that stage at McLean?
They're seen by a psychiatrist, and there's a nurse as well. They review the history that was obtained at the emergency department, and they inquire about any. They actually do another evaluation, just like at the APS, basically reviewing all the history, but also asking their own questions. And if they have any concerns, they document them there.
And you said this evaluation is done by a psychiatrist?
Correct. And
when a person comes into McLean, can they come at any hour of the day or night?
Correct.
And when they first make it to the clinical evaluation center, they're always seen by a psychiatrist?
Yes.
Now, once they do this evaluation, gather all the information, do they also do kind of a physical exam to make sure that there's no medical issues to address?
Yes.
And after all the information is gathered, what is done at the evaluation center?
So they basically enter the order. May I have some water, please?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
No worries.
Up there, my fault.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. When a patient is evaluated or seen in the clinical evaluation center, what happens after the evaluation's done?
So they determine the level of checks that the patient should be on once they get to the unit, because there are several units. There are at least 4 inpatient units. They decide what medications the patient is going to be able to get, thank you, until they are seen by a psychiatrist on the unit.
And when you say level of check, what does that mean?
Everybody who is on the unit, there's a mental health worker assigned the task of ensuring that all the patients who are supposed to be on the unit are present and that they're safe. And the lowest level is 15-minute checks. If there's concern about somebody, it goes up to 5-minute checks. And if they're extremely unsafe, it goes to a 1-to-1.
And what does 1-to-1 mean?
There would be a staff person with the patient at all times.
And again, this determination of which unit to be on and what level of security or what level of check is done by the psychiatrist that performs that first evaluation, correct?
Correct.
Now, when a person who comes through the CEC then gets sent to the unit, do they walk to the unit on their own, or how do they get to the unit?
They're escorted to the unit.
And you said there's 4 inpatient psych units, is that right?
Correct.
Now, when the person arrives at the unit, what happens?
They're seen by a nurse and a mental health worker. Their belongings they go through the belongings to ensure that there's nothing unsafe. There's certain things that are not allowed on a psych unit. The nurse reviews their history and takes some vital signs, sees if they need any medication, and then they show them to their room and the unit.
And again, people come through the CEC at all hours of the day and night, correct?
Yes.
So this whole process is pretty seamless and could happen at any point.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned previously that the length of stay or how long a person is on the unit or inpatient varies, right?
Yes.
Is there any sort of minimum that's required when a person comes in for an inpatient stay at McLean?
No.
And if they are voluntarily there, can they leave at any time?
As long as the psychiatrist and the team assesses them and determines that they don't pose an imminent risk to themselves or anybody else.
Now, what if they're there on a Section 12? Is there a time limit or a minimum amount of time they have to be there?
She wasn't there on a Section 12. She was on a voluntary.
We haven't gotten there yet. I'm just asking background questions about the facility.
I'll allow some background questions, but let's kind of move it along.
So Section 12 entails that that the team and the psychiatrist has 3 days to evaluate the patient to determine whether they pose a danger to themselves or others. And if at the end of that time they do determine that the person poses a risk, then they have to apply for commitment, which would mean going in front of a judge who would decide if the patient should remain hospitalized or be discharged.
And if at the end of the 3 days you deem them to be safe, are they allowed to leave?
Yes.
And is there something in the field of psychiatry or in your training and experience in your time at McLean about being discharged against medical advice?
He wasn't discharged AMA.
We'll allow set the really the terms and where we are, so you can go into that.
AMA is not applicable.
If we can approach...
Yeah, I don't think you heard me.
I did hear you.
All right, well then, I'm going to allow that question. There, your rights are saved.
My objection.
Yeah, I've noted it. Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you.
I think we tend not to do against medical advice, because if we are concerned about somebody's safety, we would not discharge them.
So you have another procedure available to you if you were concerned for somebody's safety?
Yes.
And that's the procedure you described about seeking an order for further commitment?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Now, when a person comes and goes through that process and is placed on their unit and settled in, what is the plan after that? How often do they see providers?
They're assessed by a psychiatrist every single day that they're there. They have nurses who are checking in with them, mental health workers. They're offered group programming and medical monitoring, vital signs. Yeah.
What types of group programming are offered to people while they're inpatient at McLean?
We offer skills groups, which are things like they're meant to teach patients skills so that they can tolerate distress, they can kind of observe their thoughts. It's meant to shore up their skills. Then there are some groups which are more just relaxed, I guess, such as going for fresh air walks or going to the recreation center, just drawing or coloring, and yeah.
And are there other things offered to patients once they're on a unit to assist them in their care, like counseling?
Yeah, those are the check-ins, and when they meet with the psychiatrist and the social worker, the counseling happens in those sessions as well, and also by the nurses and the mental health staff.
Okay. Now, does this procedure, or how it operates for any given patient, does it change if there's a holiday or a weekend?
I think they're still seen by a psychiatrist.
She's thinking, if she knows, I have no objection. I'm going to object to the way she's answering that.
All right. Why don't you rephrase the question?
I will, thank you. As far as your experience at McLean Hospital, does the schedule change when there's a weekend or a holiday?
The group schedule might change, but the staffing schedule doesn't change.
So the availability and the mental health worker that sees the patient, the social worker that checks in, and the psychiatrist and nurse, the team all stays the same even on a weekend or a holiday?
Other than the social worker.
Okay. And when I say stay the same, it could be different individuals, but
Correct.
It's somebody from that group, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as your role as a psychiatrist, how do you get assigned patients when they are admitted to McLean inpatient?
It's random. There are beds that are open, and I carry a certain number of patients, and other psychiatrists have a certain number of patients, and whoever has an opening gets the admission.
do you have to be there when the patient is admitted to have the patient assigned to you?
No.
And so do you rely on other psychiatrists to perform those tasks before you meet a patient?
Yes.
I'm going to draw your attention to a particular patient by the name of Lindsay Clancy that arrived at McLean in the early morning hours of January 1st of 2023. Do you recall that patient?
Yes.
Have you had the ability to review the records related to that patient prior to coming in today?
Yes.
And do you know where she came from?
The emergency department at MGH.
Okay. And did she come voluntarily or did she come on some sort of section?
Again, for transportation, it's always a section, but then she signed in voluntarily, which is the section 10.
Okay. So to your knowledge, she was brought in the early morning hours via ambulance?
Correct.
And did she go through that process of the clinical evaluation center in the early morning hours, approximately 4 a.m. on the 1st?
Yes.
And who saw her there?
I think the psychiatrist's name was Dr. Outlaw.
Okay, and you're familiar with Dr. Jasmine Outlaw?
I've never met her.
Okay, but she is a psychiatrist on
Correct.
staff.
I don't know what you mean by on staff.
Well, she works at McLean.
Correct.
And so you were able to review the information she gathered in that first evaluation.
Yes.
And in reviewing that information, did you identify that the patient was identified as medically stable, right? Meaning she didn't have any acute medical issues that you had to worry about?
Correct.
And she was screened on the suicide screening?
Correct.
What was the chief complaint of the patient when she arrived at McLean?
She was unhappy. She was finding it hard to sleep if she didn't take medications.
Okay. And do you recall reviewing in the records that it was noted that she reported that she felt numb?
Yes.
And that she was having some issues managing medication?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, that she had some complaints about side effects or symptoms of medication?
Yes.
Now, when the psychiatrist and the clinical evaluation center gathered the information, fair to say that it's primarily based on what's reported to the doctor by the patient?
Yes.
At McLean, do you have access to a patient's full psychiatric history or all of their records from other places?
It depends where the patient is coming from. I think that Dr. Outlaw did take an excerpt of the APS evaluation that was done at MGH, so I assume that she had access to that.
I'm sorry. Assumptions?
I mean,
I
she
can
would
ask
have
it a
had.
different way.
She doesn't know, she doesn't know.
Yeah.
All right?
As far as the full record of this particular patient that you were assigned to and responsible for, you reviewed all of the notes and information gathered by Dr. Outlaw on that first interaction with the patient, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated a little while ago in your testimony that McLean is affiliated with the Brigham
Correct.
Hospital and Mass General. So is it fair to say that those records from Mass General are available to you at McLean?
Yes.
And again, you indicated that that APS evaluation is something that's done at the emergency room, right?
Yes.
And is it common that that information come along with the patient?
I don't know.
No, good. Just if you could answer that. You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, next question.
In this instance, when you reviewed the records, were you aware or did you see that there was some note to the APS evaluation from the Mass General ER?
I saw the excerpt of the APS evaluation in Dr. Outlaw's note.
Okay. And that excerpt from the APS evaluation was conducted by somebody by the name of Dr. Hogan, correct?
Correct.
And did you review a portion of the record indicating that the patient said to Dr. Hogan or reported thoughts of wishing to be dead but no plan?
Yes.
and that there was no violent or homicidal ideation, right?
Yes.
And that was observed at Mass General to have no evidence of psychosis, mania, obsessions, or current anxiety symptoms.
Correct.
So that's information that you knew before you met with the patient.
Yes.
And as far as what's reported when the patient comes to McLean, and in this instance when Lindsay Clancy came, are you aware she reported during that clinical evaluation center evaluation that at the beginning of December she had started Seroquel and Remeron and started to have intrusive and suicidal thoughts?
Yes.
That she attributed that to medication?
Yes.
Okay, and so what was the plan, the first plan that came out of that clinical evaluation center evaluation of Ms. Clancy?
She was continued on the medications she was admitted on. You know, the plan, they do the checks, they decide what medical monitoring you need, but she basically was admitted and the medications were the same.
And what was the security level, or how long were the checks assigned to her after this evaluation?
15 minutes.
And was she considered to be a high risk upon coming into the inpatient unit, or was she minimal risk?
Low. Minimal, yeah.
And were you aware of what's called the provisional diagnosis that was assigned to this patient when she arrived?
I don't recall what the provisional diagnosis was, but I do know that they do assign a diagnosis. I don't recall it. I must have seen it in the records, but I think there are like 5 different diagnoses.
Just referring to what's already been marked as Exhibit 79, I'm going to draw your attention to page 24.
Thank you. Right. Okay, I think I remember. Yes.
Okay, does that refresh your memory as to the provisional diagnosis?
Yes.
And what was it?
Major depressive disorder, severe without psychotic features.
Now, what does the provisional diagnosis mean to you when you're assigned a patient?
That this is the assessment of the psychiatrist who saw her at that time.
Okay. Do you have to stick with that diagnosis, or are you free to change that based on your experiences with the patient?
The diagnosis I give the patient is dependent on what my interactions are and the observations of the team.
Okay. Now, for this particular patient, Ms. Clancy, on January 1st, when she got situated onto the unit after that first evaluation by Dr. Outlaw, are you aware that she was then seen later in that day on January 1st?
Yes.
And were you the doctor who saw her, or was there somebody else?
It was a different psychiatrist.
Okay, and who was the psychiatrist that saw her on January 1st?
It was Dr. Madva.
And that would be Dr. Elizabeth Madva?
Correct.
Again, is she a psychiatrist as well?
Yes.
And so this occurred while you were not in the hospital, right?
Yes.
And were you able to review the notes, the admission notes of Dr. Madva regarding her interactions with this patient on January 1st at approximately 12:47 p.m.?
Yes.
And again, as far as these interactions go with the patient and the psychiatrist, it's more of a conversation, right?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, it's a conversation when you meet with a patient.
Yes.
You ask them how they're feeling, get information that you think is necessary. Is that fair to say?
It's a conversation, and also you gather information.
Okay. And so do you rely on things that were reported before?
Yes.
Okay. But you also ask follow-up questions, right?
Correct.
And as far as your review of Dr. Madva's interaction with Ms. Clancy on January 1st, is it clear to you that she did that?
Yes.
You reviewed her history with her and spoke with her about how she was feeling?
Yes.
At the time she spoke with Dr. Madva, you were she said that she denied feeling depressed and denied any passive death wishes or suicidal thoughts, but reports feeling numb.
Yes.
She reports she can't feel any emotion other than mild anxiety at now being in a hospital setting.
Yes.
Okay. After Ms. Clancy was seen by Dr. Madva, were you aware of what the plan was regarding her medication?
Yes.
And what was the plan?
Ms. Clancy complained, there were several symptoms. One of the things that she did complain about was the numbness, and Dr. Madhva did, hear that and hear her concern, and that she had been sensitive to many different medications, so she
Well, let me ask, if I can ask a question.
You finished with your answer?
So she determined that it was possible that the numbness the patient was complaining of was a side effect of the medication she was on, and the plan was to taper that medication and observe the patient to see whether the numbness went away, and also if any other symptoms became evident.
So the medications, you were aware of the medications that Ms. Clancy came into McLean on, right?
Yes.
And what medications were those?
Seroquel at 100 milligrams a day, at a Valium, 2 milligrams, I don't remember the frequency, I think it was per day. And
Again, we're going to let her finish.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I have no problem if she looks at the record.
Yeah.
so Seroquel, Valium, and Benadryl.
Do you remember or do you recall Remeron being one of the drugs that were described or reported by Ms. Clancy? When she came in, that she reported taking Remeron?
In the past, yes.
Okay. And again, in that report from the patient about past history, do you recall her indicating that one of the providers had suspected a bipolar disorder?
Yes.
In your interactions with Ms. Clancy and your review of the interaction she had with other psychiatrists, did she appear to agree with that diagnosis?
Did
If you
who
know.
appear to agree?
Ms. Clancy.
Rephrase that question, please.
Ms. Clancy, did
Yes.
she disagreed with the diagnosis?
Okay. The fact that she came in and she was on 100 milligrams of Seroquel or more, would that have been something that was significant to you in considering a bipolar diagnosis?
Seroquel is used for several purposes. It is not just used for bipolar illness.
Okay. And Ms. Clancy also reported coming to McLean issues with insomnia, correct?
Yes.
Is Seroquel sometimes used in low doses to address insomnia?
Yes.
Now, as far as the plan from January 1st, you indicated that Dr. Madhva recommended reducing the Seroquel and then monitoring symptoms, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware that Ms. Clancy saw Dr. Madhva again on January 2nd?
Yes.
And again, that was prior to your first point of contact with her.
Yes.
As far as what you know from reviewing the record, you aware that that Ms. Clancy reported that she slept well on lesser dose of Seroquel.
Yes.
Did she report any delusions, hallucinations, or suicidal or homicidal ideation?
No.
And as far as after the check-in with Dr. Madhva on the 2nd, was the plan to continue to decrease the Seroquel?
Dr. Madhva was going to continue her on 75 milligrams, and then the next day she would have gone down to 50 milligrams.
And on these first few days that Lindsay Clancy was at McLean Hospital from January 1st until you actually saw her on January 3rd, you're aware that in addition to seeing Dr. Outlaw at the intake and Dr. Madhva on 2 occasions, on the 1st and the 2nd, that there were also notes in the record for you to review from nurses who interacted with her on January 1st at 5:20 a.m., right?
Yes.
From nurse January 1st at 6:28 a.m.
Yes.
A nurse interacting with her on January 1st at 10:34 a.m.
Yes.
And that she actually participated in a group activity with a social worker at 12:03 p.m. on the 1st.
Yes.
And that a nurse interacted with her and made notes at 2:07 p.m. on the 1st.
Yes.
And that she saw a mental health worker at 9:33 p.m. on the 1st.
Yes.
And in relation to January 2nd, a nurse made note of interaction with her on 9:46 on the 2nd, right?
I remember there were interactions. I don't remember the exact time.
But fair to say on the 2nd, she interacted with nurses and Dr. Madhva.
Yes.
Based on your review. Now, going to January 3rd, that was the first face-to-face contact you had with the patient, correct?
Yes.
Prior to meeting with her, had you reviewed all of these notes and all of the information up to that date?
Yes.
And did you go through, again, a report of history with her?
Yes.
Were you able to make an assessment of her mental status during that interaction with her?
Yes.
And what were your observations of her mental status?
I can remember certain elements, but I don't remember. She was dressed in, she was appropriately dressed. Her speech was of normal rate and volume. Behaviorally, she was polite and cooperative. Her mood, I don't remember exactly. It's a quote, so I don't remember exactly what she quoted her mood as being. It would be in the medical record.
Yeah, one moment. I'm just going to approach, if that's okay.
Yeah. And just so the records are Exhibit 79?
Yes.
All right, so those records, you'll have those with you. Okay.
So I have pulled pages 61 through 66. So I think that's your note. If you can just take a look at that and let me know when Does that refresh your memory as to what your observations were of her mood?
Yes.
What was her mood?
Anxious.
Okay. And did you observe signs of anxiety, or did she tell you that she felt anxious?
She appeared anxious.
And her affect, did you observe it to be congruent to her mood?
Yes.
And you examined her and found her to have linear thinking and appear goal-directed, right?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as addressing kind of why she was there and what your recommendations were, ultimately, what were you trying to address or accomplish in the treatment plan with Ms. Clancy?
That's a very broad question.
Okay, I could break it down if that's okay.
Yes.
So as far as once you had a chance to sit and talk with her, what did she identify to you to be her main concerns that she wanted to address during her stay at McLean?
She did not want to be dependent on an antipsychotic medication, which is what Seroquel's class is, even though it's used for insomnia and other indications, depression. She didn't want to be dependent on Seroquel to be able to fall asleep.
Okay, and so fair to say she was very concerned about wanting to sleep at night.
Yes.
And she was very concerned about her symptomology, or what she was experiencing by way of symptoms from various medications, right?
Yes.
And that concept, or the phrase numbness, did she use that a few times?
Yes.
And again, you mentioned Dr. Madhva was concerned about the numbness with the medication. In your experience with Seroquel, is that also a common side effect for people to feel numb?
It can be one of the side effects that people can have.
Okay. And as far as the suicidal statements that you were aware of from the prior reports, did you go through that with her about whether she presented to you with suicidal ideation?
Can you ask me that again?
Sure. Did you talk to her about her thoughts of suicide?
Yes.
And did you talk to her about whether she had any specific plan?
Yes.
Did she have any plan?
No.
Had she reported that she had ever had a plan for suicide?
No.
And did she tell you there were reasons why she thought she wouldn't commit suicide?
Yes.
And what were those reasons?
Her children and her family, her mother.
So after this face-to-face interaction with her and kind of going through her history and having reviewed what you had, the information you had about her, what did you develop as a plan for her while she was at McLean?
I continued with the plan to taper her off Seroquel and to monitor whether her symptoms improved, but also to see if she could sleep while she was off of Seroquel. And to really observe symptoms and mood.
During this first interaction with her, was there any conversation about how long she would stay or what her plan might be after she left McLean?
When we met the first time, Lindsay said that she had her daughter's birthday coming up on the weekend, and that it had been planned months ahead of that date, and she was hoping that she could be there that weekend so she could be with the kids and family who was going to come for the birthday party.
Now, the concept of kind of tapering her off the Seroquel and monitoring her symptoms, did that seem like a realistic goal to you?
Yes.
And now, after having spoken to her and developing this plan, were you also cognizant or thinking about the potential for a bipolar disorder diagnosis? And so how did that affect how you approached this plan to taper?
Again, we were observing for any symptoms that would indicate that she might have bipolar disorder.
And where she had reported that she had issues with sleep, was that also something of concern to you if there was the potential for a bipolar disorder?
Yes.
And reduction of medication, what was the concern for the sleep?
I think people's mental health is negatively affected if they cannot sleep, whether it's bipolar disorder or depression, and so sleep is important.
Okay, and so a person that you might be considering for a bipolar diagnosis, would lack of sleep make you watch for symptoms of hypomania?
Yes, sleep deprivation can lead to a bipolar episode, a hypomanic episode.
So you wanted to monitor her patterns in her sleep and her mood to see if there was any evidence of that, correct?
Yes.
In this first interaction where you identified a plan, did you also make a suggestion about a particular medication that she might consider after the Seroquel had been discontinued?
Yes.
What was the alternative medication, if you will?
It was Cymbalta, which is an antidepressant.
And was that something that you intended to prescribe for her while she was there, or was it something that you suggested that she could consider as an outpatient?
It was just a consideration. It would depend on how she was doing after she was off of the Seroquel.
Okay. Now, what about the Valium? Was there a plan to address tapering or weaning her off Valium or an alternative to Valium?
Yes, I switched her from Valium to Ativan.
Okay.
Because it has a shorter half-life. And, in my experience, it manages anxiety well.
And were you aware that she had taken Ativan before?
Yes.
And did she report any concerns about Ativan or benzodiazepines in general?
Yes.
And what was the concern she reported to you?
She stated that her husband had concerns about her being on a benzodiazepine.
During this interaction with her on the January 3rd, did you observe any signs of psychosis?
No.
And in the notes and the interactions with the providers prior to your meeting between January 1st and January 3rd, did anyone ever note any symptoms or concerns for psychosis?
No.
And you're aware that Ms. Clancy was also still in that, what was considered the postpartum period, right? She had had a child in May of 2022?
That's a tricky question to answer because different organizations or agencies assign postpartum a different length of time.
Okay, and so in your training experience and your experience as a person who diagnoses,
yes.
Did you consider postpartum as part of what you had to figure out here with this patient? Or was
Yes.
it really not a consideration?
It was.
Okay, and why was it for you?
I mean, she had a child, and the risk of postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis is a serious consideration.
Okay. Now, after this first meeting with Ms. Clancy on the 3rd, were you able to give her, in your own opinion, a diagnosis?
Yes.
And what was that?
You said after the 3rd?
Right.
Okay, so that would mean one meeting.
Yes.
I gave her a diagnosis of insomnia with a mental health condition because one day of observation wasn't sufficient for me to figure out if she truly, to give a solid diagnosis because it sticks with the patient.
Right. Fair to say you just didn't have enough information at that point.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So again, you saw her on January 3rd, and that was approximately 9:15 a.m., right?
If
Do you
that's what
recall?
it says. Yeah.
Well, at the top of your inpatient progress note on page 61 of the exhibit, if I say the data service reads 1/3/23 at 9:15, would that be where you would note the time you were scheduled to speak with the patient?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that on that same day, on January 3rd, that in addition to meeting with you, that she met with a social worker at 10:07 a.m., right?
Yes, the social worker and I would have met with her together.
Okay, but then the social worker would have their own note if there was any interaction that they were noting, and also a nurse as well.
Yes.
Right? And that on the 3rd, that Ms. Clancy participated in a group at 12:02 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And engaged with a mental health worker at 12:22 p.m., right?
I do know that she engaged with the mental health worker. The times are
Okay.
not something I recall.
If I indicate that the records show she
Yes.
did another group at 2:36 p.m., would that sound right?
Yes.
That she then declined a group at 3:50 p.m.
Yes.
and then saw another mental health worker in the evening before presumably she went to bed 8:52 p.m.
Yes.
Did you see her on January 4th?
Yes.
And so again, is this the same protocol? You meet, you talk, you discuss. Did you talk to her about how the previous night's sleep went?
Yes.
And how was that night's sleep?
She reported sleeping well.
Well?
I don't remember the exact words, but she said she slept. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember having a conversation with her again on that day, January 4th, about going home?
Yes.
And what did she say about that?
Originally, I think we were thinking, we had talked about discharge on Friday, and she stated that she was anxious being in the hospital and that she wanted to be discharged so she could be home with her family and her children.
And so did she ask to leave earlier than Friday?
Yes.
And when she asked to leave earlier than Friday, what was your response to that?
Whenever I said she could leave provided she had psychiatric follow-up the next day.
And why did you do that?
I wanted to ensure that if she wasn't able to sleep that night after discharge, that she could speak with somebody about it so that they could come up with a plan to ensure she could sleep and to monitor how she was doing off the medication.
And was there a kind of a secondary reason that you had asked that she make sure she make an appointment before discharge?
Yes, it was also to assess whether she could think clearly and follow directions and get it together. We asked her to set up the appointment herself, and she was able to do that. She responded within an hour. She told the social worker that she had gotten an appointment, and the social worker had asked her for a fax number so that we could we could send the discharge summary, and she provided the fax number as well.
And now on this day that you had met her on January 4th, she reported that she slept well. Do you recall what dose of Seroquel she was down to at that point? Had she reached 0?
On which day?
On the 4th, when you saw her.
I'd have to walk myself through this. So I know she was on 75 milligrams the night of the 1st, 75 milligrams the night of the 2nd. On the night of the 3rd, we decreased it to 50 milligrams. On the night of the 4th, she would have been on 25 milligrams.
Okay. And fair to say that on the 4th, your plan was to continue to taper her so that she would be at 0 for Seroquel, take no Seroquel on Thursday night, right?
Correct.
And that she would be restarted on Ativan, and that she'd have the trazodone available if she needed it.
She was already on Ativan during her admission and was taking it at night. She also had trazodone, which is a sleep medication. It has sedating properties, so it can be used for sleep. So yes, she had the option to take that as well.
And so did you have a concern about her leaving on Thursday the 5th without having monitored her at no Seroquel?
I did not have any concerns about her safety or a risk for anybody else.
Okay, but as far as from a diagnostic perspective, would you have preferred to have more information about her sleep patterns and her mood?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said that you didn't have a concern for her safety. So what, in your time that you were with her, that you met with her, and all the information that you reviewed, what were identified as maybe protective factors that made you feel comfortable that she was safe?
She was, there are several things. She was future-oriented. She was clearly invested in her children. She was a caring mother, just like a caring mother. She had her parents around to help her. She had family and supports. We ensured that she would have outpatient psychiatric care for follow-up. She didn't have a history of suicide. She had no history of psychosis, postpartum psychosis. She had a stable place to live.
The statement that she made to you that she wouldn't have completed the act of suicide because of her kids or her mom, was that something that you considered?
Absolutely.
And the fact that during the time from admission on January 1st to the time she was discharged on January 5th, that she didn't make statements supporting suicidal ideation, was that a factor that you considered?
Yes.
And at no time during the time she was at McLean did she ever indicate that she had ever reported or had thoughts of harming anyone else, did she?
She had never stated that she had any thoughts of harming anybody else.
And ultimately, at the end of that conversation with her, or the hour later, she was able to secure that appointment that you asked her to on her own.
Correct.
And so knowing that now the discharge has moved up a day, what was your plan for medication for her upon discharge?
She would have continued on the Ativan to help her sleep at night. That was a short-term plan. Once she was feeling better or was able to sleep or her mood came back to baseline, she could taper off of it. She had trazodone to use as needed, and melatonin.
And as far as your recommendations for medication, it would be no more Seroquel. I guess, let me ask that question a different way.
Yes.
You didn't give her a new prescription for a different dosage of Seroquel, did you?
No.
And did you advise her to take Seroquel when she was home if she felt that she needed it?
I would assume she would take what I had prescribed.
Just to back up 1 second, as part of this treatment team plan for patients at McLean Hospital, is it fair to say that either you or other members of the team, either a mental health worker, a social worker, or a nurse, sometimes reach out to collaterals in order to try to gather information and assess a patient?
Yes.
And in this instance, are you aware that somebody reached out to Patrick Clancy to speak with him about his wife and her care?
Yes.
And were you aware that he reported that she hadn't ever had suicidal thoughts?
Yes.
And that he actually reported to the social worker that she was concerned about dependency?
Yes.
But she had told you that her husband was concerned. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that he felt that she had succumbed to social pressure to take psychiatric medications because her friends were taking them?
That's what he told the social worker.
And you're aware that he had made statements that he was unhappy with the medical care she was receiving at McLean?
He said, I don't think
Were you aware that he said he was very unhappy with the medical care she received?
She received, yes. She didn't specify. He didn't specify McLean.
Okay, thank you. And as far as you're aware, the patient themselves, Ms. Clancy, she never complained that she wasn't getting seen by staff or doctors, was she?
She never complained of that.
Did she ever file any sort of complaint with the hospital?
No.
And is there a mechanism for a person to file a complaint if they feel like they're not being treated?
Absolutely.
And is that information posted all over the units?
It is posted on the unit and the forms are available.
And a person, even if they're not on a one-to-one or directly interacting with a mental health worker or social worker, do they always have the ability to request to speak to somebody?
Absolutely.
And so even when maybe somebody from their team is not there or working, is there somebody always on call, a mental health worker, a social worker, a psychiatrist, a nurse, for a person to speak to if they felt they needed to?
Yes.
And in addition to your meeting with her on January 4th, and after coming up with that plan for discharge on the 5th, are you aware that she then continued to engage in groups on the 5th, and that she continued to engage with mental health workers and social workers?
Yes.
And do you recall when she was discharged on the 5th? Was it in the morning or in the evening?
Afternoon, probably around 3-ish is my recall.
Okay. And upon discharge, was she provided with information that she could use when she was home? Like resources?
Yes.
And do you recall that she had asked about resources to find a new doctor at some point?
Yes.
And that she ultimately reported to the social worker that she felt comfortable managing at home?
Yes.
If I may have one moment.
Sure.
So upon discharge, what did you actually prescribe her?
A 14-day supply of Ativan and a 14-day supply of trazodone.
Okay. And when you were having conversations with her about her thoughts of suicide or her thoughts of wanting to die, was she expressly asked if she wanted to kill herself?
Yes.
And what was her answer, if you recall?
She denied that.
She denied that?
Yes.
And was she specifically asked if she had a plan to kill herself?
Yes.
And what was her answer to that?
She denied it.
And was she specifically asked if she wanted to harm anyone else?
Yes.
And did she provide an answer for that?
She denied it.
And those are standard questions you would ask at every interaction with her, correct?
Yes.
And prior to discharge, she would also be asked those questions again, correct?
Yes.
Because if her answers changed at any point, it would have changed your plan, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Reddington.
I'd like to start off just by asking, District Attorney asked you about resources that were provided to her. What were the resources?
We had discussed going on Psychology Today, where
I'm sorry?
she was aware of the website Psychology Today.
Website?
Yes, she was given the name of a case manager through her insurance who she could contact for assistance in finding new providers.
So other than telling her about the website for Psychology Today and talking about her insurance company and what they would allow for her to reach out for what, other providers? Is that what it was?
Can you restate that?
Sure, of course. You referenced her insurance company.
Yes.
I mean, that's a major consideration in medical treatment, is it not? what a person has for insurance?
No.
No?
I don't understand what you mean by
You
that.
know what insurance is? I mean, as far as like a person paying their bills for medical treatment or psychiatric treatment.
The insurance is important because who you can see is limited by what insurance you
Right.
have.
So that's what I was asking as far as the insurance. You referenced that on the resources, when the DA asked you about resources, and I asked you what were the resources, and you said going on the website for Psychology Today, right?
Yes.
And that you spoke to her about her insurance, right?
We gave her the name of a case manager who she could contact and her telephone number in case she wanted to find other providers. They would be able to look at their database and figure out what providers would be within the distance she was comfortable with, whether they were male or female, if she had a preference, and if she had any preference about any specialization.
Okay. And in reference to the insurance, what is the insurance? You answered the question about insurance. I'm just asking, what is the involvement of insurance in that offer of resources?
I don't understand your question.
All right, maybe I didn't understand your answer. That's why I apologize. You had indicated that in addition to telling her to go on the website for
Yes.
Psychology Today, that you spoke about her insurance and other providers that would be permitted, I guess, under her insurance.
Not every patient, the fact that she had a case manager at Blue Cross Blue Shield was an added benefit because they could assist her in finding providers.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
All right. Other than the case manager from Blue Cross Blue Shield and to do research off of the website for Psychology Today, what resources were provided to this woman?
There are numerous resources that are printed on the after visit summary. I don't know each and every one of them, but I think they would be in the medical record.
Okay. And that's something that is provided to a patient when they leave.
Yes.
She came in on a voluntary, is that correct? In other words, I know she was transported by an ambulance, but nevertheless it was that she and her husband, Patrick, wanted her to be treated at McLean, correct?
She came in and signed in on a voluntary.
In other words, there were no orders of a court, no judge ordering that she be committed or anything like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And she came in on, was it New Year's Eve? January 1st?
Yes.
And do you remember what time she came in?
I think she arrived at the CEC around 4.
Now, would you agree that on New Year's Eve in McLean Hospital, that that ward is pretty much running on a skeleton crew?
I can't speak to something I'm not there.
Well, obviously you're not there, but what about other people? Was it skeleton crew New Year's Eve? Or
You would
was it-
have to ask somebody who was there.
Well, you've worked there for what, 7 years?
5.
5 years. And what is the ward that she was on?
AB1 South.
81 South?
A as in apple, B as in boy, 1 South.
South. And how many doctors work at AB South, on whatever shifts that you may have?
There are 4 psychiatrists assigned who work on AB1 South.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, that's it.
And does that include you?
Yes.
And approximately how many nurses work on AB South?
I wouldn't know, but I know that there is a nurse assigned to each team and that there are 4 teams. Sometimes, yeah, in general.
4 teams on AB South, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say a team, that consists of what? A psychiatrist, a nurse, perhaps, or what?
A psychiatrist, a nurse, a social worker, and an assigned mental health worker.
And what are the shifts that this team would work?
There are 3 shifts.
Okay, and would that be like, 7 to 11, or 11 to 4, that type of thing?
I think there's 7-hour shifts or 8-hour shifts. I don't know the exact times.
All right. And are you assigned a shift, or do you just go whenever you want?
We are not assigned shifts.
And when she was presented to the hospital, she went through that initial evaluation that you told us about, the CEC. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat
CEC, maybe you were talking about the
Yeah,
CEC?
can you repeat the question?
Sure. When she admitted herself and was escorted onto AB South, that's where she was evaluated?
She was evaluated in the CEC by the psychiatrist. Then she came to the unit and was seen by Dr. Madhwa later the same day. So she met 2 psychiatrists on January 1st.
Okay. So you have a woman that has admitted herself to McLean
Yeah.
on New Year's for help, right?
Yes.
And she was evaluated at the CEC. Is that on that ward, or is that a different part of the hospital?
It's a different part.
Okay. And how long does that evaluation typically take?
I can't speak to that. I don't work in the CEC.
What do you do in the CEC? What happens in the CEC? Does this person sit down and they get interviewed, or what do they do?
There's a full psychiatric evaluation.
And a full psychiatric evaluation consists of what?
A chief complaint, a history of, so basically a history of present illness, which would be what brings the person into the hospital.
Okay.
They review past psychiatric history, substance use history, social history, family history. They do a mental status exam, and then they make an assessment.
And they would be the CEC?
Psychiatrist.
And that would be the psychiatrist that you were referring to?
Dr. Outlaw.
Dr. Outlaw. Now, how long does the CEC typically take?
I do not know. It depends on the speed of the person seeing the patient.
I imagine that at some point, a psychiatrist or a social worker or somebody must get into the prior history that the patient had prior to coming to your doorstep, right?
That is a part of the evaluation, yes.
Okay. And you had a chance, as the district attorney asked you, as to whether or not you were able to review the medical records that involved Lindsay Clancy's treatment at McLean Hospital for the 4.5 days, right?
I was able to review the CEC note, which had an excerpt of the MGH evaluation and the notes that were available to me since January 1st at McLean.
Now, as a psychiatrist, I mean, when she goes to the hospital, she's your patient, right?
She's
your patient.
Yes.
Yes. And as a doctor, what you want to do is get all the information that's available on why this person is in your locked ward, right?
Yes.
So did you do inquiry into her prior history, or was that left to the CEC person or the social worker?
That is part of the evaluation.
And the evaluation is CEC?
And when I see her as well.
All right. So do you sometimes, when I say you, I mean you or the social worker or the CEC person, do you talk to people like third party, I think you said third party contacts?
Yes.
All right.
The social worker does.
Okay, so, and you reviewed the records. So when did the social worker talk to the first psychiatrist that she went to see?
The social worker contacted Patrick.
Well, I know you told us that he contacted Patrick, and that Patrick gave some history about the benzodiazepines that he was concerned about, and he thought she wasn't getting good medical care. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. You know that she had medical treatment before she came to McLean?
Yes.
Okay. Who was her psychiatrist?
The nurse practitioner she was seeing prior to coming to McLean, I was aware of that person.
Would that be nurse practitioner Gelada?
Yes.
Did you speak to her?
No,
Did you look at her records?
I did not have access to them.
Why not?
They aren't in the same medical record system.
Well, the same medical record system is just so that you have access to MGH, you have access to Brigham and Women's Hospital, because it's all part of some big computer information access you have. What about other healthcare providers? Can you get access to their records?
Not immediately.
Well, how about if you have a release signed by a patient under the HIPAA law? You know what the HIPAA law is, obviously, right?
Yes.
And just tell me, what does that actually mean, that a patient allows someone to look at their medical records?
Yes.
And Lindsay was very, very cooperative with you guys, wasn't she?
Yes.
Did anyone ever ask her to sign a HIPAA release for anyone to get access to nurse practitioner Gelada's records?
No.
How about psychiatrist Tufts' records?
No.
How about nurse practitioner Paul's records?
No.
Who's Letitia Dukes?
She was a social worker, I think, that Lindsay saw at South Shore at the perinatal program.
Okay. And do you know when she went to the South Shore, Rhode Island perinatal program?
I know it was prior to admission. I don't remember the exact dates.
Do you know what recommendations that she had received at that point?
No, other than the medication.
Do you know what medication she was actually on when she presented to McLean Hospital?
Seroquel and Valium.
What is it?
Seroquel and Valium.
You knew that Dr. Tufts was the first psychiatrist that she actually consulted, correct?
I believe so.
And when again, if you don't know, just say you don't know.
Yes.
Okay. And I think you made reference to the fact, or maybe the DA made reference in questioning you, about the fact that she was looking for doctors for some type of medication or something. Is that fair?
That's a very vague statement. I don't know what you mean.
Okay. Well, actually, she saw Dr. Tufts because Dr. Tufts advertised that she was an expert in perinatal care, right?
Correction.
Overruled.
Oh, sorry. I wouldn't know why she saw Dr. Tufts.
Do you know what medication Dr. Tufts prescribed to her?
From what Lindsay told me, yes.
What?
Zoloft was the first.
All right. So Dr. Tufts, according to Lindsay, provided her, Lindsay, with Zoloft, which is an SSRI, correct?
It's an antidepressant in that class, yes.
Okay, so when you say an antidepressant in that class, the class would be selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, right?
Yes.
And that's pretty powerful stuff, isn't it?
I don't know what you mean by powerful.
No? Well, are you supposed to prescribe Zoloft or sertraline to a person that has bipolar?
I think it all depends on what you're seeing when you see the patient.
All right. So it's important, I would imagine then, to be fair in your evaluation of this young woman that came to your hospital for help on New Year's, to find out what any evaluations were of her condition, her presentation, her symptomology when she saw that first psychiatrist, Dr. Tufts, right?
Lindsay was cooperative and she was forthcoming. I had no reason to think that she would not provide us with what other providers thought, just like she told us that Tufts said she was worried about bipolar disorder. And
I apologize.
Yeah.
Tufts advised her that she was worried
no,
about?
sorry, it was,
Gelada?
yes.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
That's all right, no problem. And again, if you have records or you want to look at them, that's fine, because I know it's tough to have all the stuff in your head.
Yes. Thank you.
And so Dr. Tufts prescribed the Zoloft to her, and you knew that right after the initial prescription of Zoloft, do you know how many milligrams she was prescribed initially by Dr. Tufts?
Lindsay, I think, stated it was 25.
Okay. And then Dr. Tufts increased it to what, 100?
Lindsay said it was increased to 50.
50, all right. So, and again, you're in a, I don't know if it's appropriate to say, but you're in a mental institution, right? That's where you work at McLean
Yes.
Hospital. Okay, and it's a locked ward, right?
Yes,
And she's a patient that's coming to you for help, right?
yes.
Is it appropriate for a doctor to take what that patient is telling you as a history? Or do you have to verify it or talk to other healthcare providers to make sure that they're not just running off and making something up?
I had no reason to believe that she was not a reliable reporter.
Because she seemed very forthright, right?
Yes,
She seemed very honest in her disclosure of her symptomology, right?
yes.
One of the things, or one of the tools that you in the mental health field have access to is psychiatric testing, right?
Yes,
Okay. You have, for example, one tool, and I think psychologists, and there are psychologists that are on staff, I would imagine, at McLean as well.
no, not on that unit.
As a psychiatrist, you don't administer psychiatric or psychological testing, do you?
No,
All right. But for example, you've got the Beck inventory test, or what's called the MMPI test. You're familiar with those, right?
these are forms and forms that the patient can fill out.
Right. And one of the tests is the MMPI, which is Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory Test, right?
I have heard of that.
Okay. And you know that one of the things that it determines is, if they call it the K scale, whether or not somebody is lying or minimizing, or not minimizing, but lying about their symptomology, right?
I don't know much about the scale.
Well, that's a tool that can give someone information as to the person's presentation of their symptomology. That would be important as to their honesty of whether or not they're trying to minimize or whether or not they're trying to falsely project their symptomology, right?
I don't know what you're asking me.
Okay. Were you aware that there were ever any psychological testing administered to Lindsay? MMPI or Beck or anything?
No.
Okay. How many times did she call or reach out to help for a suicide hotline?
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be something important to find out, if the person who you're suggesting was denying suicidality or suicidal ideation upon your evaluation, that she called out to suicide hotlines?
She was telling, she told us that she was having suicidal thoughts,
Right.
but had no intent or plan. So I do know that she was struggling with suicidal ideation.
Right. Anybody else that you talked to? Or did you
Patrick.
talk to anybody else?
I know the social worker talked to Patrick, and he did give the information he gave.
Okay. So what I'm asking is, as you're investigating the history of this patient, you're not aware, no idea that she had reached out on not one but two occasions to a suicide hotline. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Did you know that when she was first prescribed the Zoloft by Dr. Tufts at 25 milligrams, then increased to 50 milligrams, that she then reported that she was unable to sleep?
She
For
shared
40
that with us. Yeah.
Was that-
Sorry. I'm sorry. I
Go
didn't.
right ahead, no problem. What is it?
I'm going to let you finish the question.
Okay, thank you. No big deal. It's just that she reported that she went for 48 hours without sleep.
I don't remember that time quoted. I know she had difficulty sleeping.
You indicated in your testimony that, and I quote, I would have preferred to have more information about her sleep patterns, right? Do you remember saying that?
Following the changes in the medications that we were making.
So sleep pattern would be just what it says, sleep pattern, like you sleep from 9 at night till 7 in the morning or
Yes.
12 at night, whatever your pattern would be, right?
Yes,
And why is a sleep pattern important for you as a psychiatrist trying to evaluate your patient?
because difficulty sleeping is a symptom of several different conditions, and it can worsen several different conditions.
And you know that she had reported severe anxiety, right?
She was struggling with anxiety, yes.
Struggling with anxiety, and she was having not just insomnia, but she had very, very severe insomnia, didn't she?
She wasn't able to sleep.
And you would prefer to have more information about sleep patterns, is what you said. I'm not putting words in your mouth. That's what you said.
I know that we were able to observe her sleep while she was on the unit. Once she left the unit, I would not know how she was sleeping, which is why we referred her to somebody else so that they could continue to monitor her symptoms.
Obviously. So let's put the time that you are observing her or that your social workers are investigating to whatever extent they did, her background. What were her sleep patterns that were important to you prior to New Year's 2023?
The amount of sleep is important.
Yeah, and you said that. You already said, I would have preferred to have more information about her sleep patterns.
After she was if I was going to continue to evaluate her, I would want to observe her sleep is what I meant.
Oh, so you didn't mean that as an evaluator of her prior medical history, trying to get a history of your patient for purposes of diagnosis and treatment, that you wanted to know what her sleep patterns were. You didn't mean that you meant prior?
The history of whether somebody is struggling with insomnia is important, and the patient can relay that to me.
Okay. You ever heard of patients that minimize their symptoms and lie about their symptoms sometimes?
Yes.
Okay. So it's important to corroborate what the person is telling you, right? I mean, you want to talk to somebody else objective to find out what, if any, evidence there is of symptomology.
And we did that with Patrick.
I'm sorry?
So when a patient presents and they're talking to us, it is not just about what they are saying. It's about their body language, their eye contact. You can get a sense of whether a person is being honest or whether they're lying. And we are not, we're providers. The patient is there to get help. They're going to tell us what is bothering them and what they're concerned about. That's why they're in the hospital.
This woman was in a locked ward. She couldn't walk off your unit, could she?
That is what a psychiatric unit is.
Right. And she was very sick, wasn't she?
I don't know what you mean by very sick.
Really? You indicated that you would assume that she would take what I prescribed. Do you do that with all of your patients? Assume that when they have mental disease or a defect that they would do what they're told?
If they are cooperative, and they have been cooperative and reliable, yes.
One of the things that's referenced would be she stated that she had intrusive thoughts. Remember that?
Yes.
What were the intrusive thoughts?
From what's stated in the medical record, thoughts of suicide.
Okay. And how often would she have the intrusive thoughts?
I don't recall if the frequency.
Would you agree with me that in addition to anxiety and in addition to inability to sleep, that she was in what was self-described as a brain fog, right?
She complained of feeling, you can complain of feeling foggy.
She also complained about that she felt as if she was a zombie, right?
She did not use those words.
Anybody else use that word describing her in your investigation?
No.
Did Patrick tell you that he was concerned about the medications that she had been prescribed over the past 2 or 3 months?
Yes.
And you knew what the medications were that she was prescribed, correct?
She told us.
She told you, okay. And she told you that she was prescribed, in addition to the SSRI Zoloft that was increased from 25 to 100, that she was then told...
I was aware that...
I'm sorry, 50.
Correct.
She was then told to stop taking the Zoloft by Dr. Tufts, right?
She reported not being able to sleep, and they agreed that she would not take the Zoloft.
Okay, so the answer is yes. She was told to stop taking the Zoloft by Dr. Tufts, right?
I think you would have to ask Dr. Tufts that
Oh,
question.
I will. But I'm asking you, as investigating her...
I know that she stopped taking the Zoloft, and that she saw Dr. Tufts, so I assume that they would have come to that agreement.
All right, so as you're evaluating this patient, you're assuming that she voluntarily stopped taking the Zoloft?
Because she wasn't able to sleep, and she discussed it with Dr. Tufts.
She did. You knew that.
She told us she did.
Okay. How many patients have you treated, how many women have you treated that were suffering from postpartum psychosis?
I don't recall. I don't remember, but I think it would stick in my memory, so I don't think that I probably have.
You don't think you probably have?
I don't think I have. I haven't seen any.
How about postpartum depression?
Yes.
And how many patients have you treated with postpartum depression?
Over the last 20 years, I wouldn't, there are lots of patients I have seen. Okay. I don't keep a record of what diagnoses and what people I see.
Now, one of the things that you, when I say you collectively, I mean psychiatrists, psychologists, use in your evaluations and diagnoses of patients would be what's referred to as the DSM, correct?
Yes.
And that would be, DSM, it means Diagnostic Statistical Manual, right?
Yes.
And it started out with DSM-1, then it went to 2, then it went to 2R, meaning revised, and then there were a number of revisions, and now we're all the way up to DSM-5, correct?
Yes.
And DSM-5, also the most recent would be -TR. What does TR mean?
I don't actually know.
So the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, is really, it's about this thick, right? If you have a regular sized book. I just have a little one, but.
I think so.
Okay. Do you rely on or do you use in your evaluation of patients the Diagnostic Statistical Manual?
The diagnoses are based on the criteria that are stated in there.
Okay, so you do use, for diagnosis purposes, what is stated in the DSM, correct?
Yes.
And it's kind of like a cookbook. I mean, it basically tells you what the ingredients of a particular mental disease or defect would be, right?
Yes.
And you know that it's basically a group of people that get together and they discuss what should or should not be included in the manual that psychiatrists and psychologists use to diagnose patients, right?
Yes.
And they try to keep up to date and stay on top of any recent developments, right?
I would assume, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't speak to it.
That's all right. So here we are in 2026, not 1928. Is postpartum depression in the DSM?
I think it's a subcategory.
You think it's a subcategory of what?
Depression.
Depression. How about psychosis? Postpartum psychosis in 2026. Is that in this manual?
I don't exactly know where it is.
Have you ever seen it in this manual?
I don't recall paying attention to where it's categorized.
So if you're treating a woman who is, as you put it, postpartum because she had the child, and then you told the jury, well, there's a time frame, a cutoff as to whether or not a person is still postpartum, still subject to mood swings, and still subject to hormone imbalance, and there's a cutoff, is what you said, right?
Different organizations use different definitions.
How about you? You're here for the government testifying in this case. What's your understanding of a cutoff of postpartum, if there is one?
For the DSM-5, it is 4 weeks. For ACOG, which is the American Academy of Obstetrics or something, I don't remember what that stands for. It's 12 weeks. For the CDC, it's 12 months. For the CDC, it's 12 months.
Okay. So CDC would be Center for Disease Control, right?
Yes.
So they're pretty much all over the place as far as the time frame that a woman can still be involved with postpartum symptomology, right?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of a doctor by the name of Meg Spinelli?
No.
Have you read anything about the efforts being made to have the DSM-6 coming out include
Objection.
No, overruled.
postpartum psychosis?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Have you read or are you aware of efforts being made to include postpartum psychosis in the DSM-6 that will be coming out within a couple of months?
I think it's clear that there is question about where it should be placed or categorized.
Okay, so are you aware of any efforts being made to include postpartum psychosis in the DSM-6 when it comes out?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. How vague?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I know that there's question about where it should be categorized and that the DSM is reviewed every time and they try to move things around based on what clinicians and researchers think.
What, if any, impact does the thyroid have on a woman who has just had a baby and is in the postpartum period, whatever they decided it is, 6 months, 4 months, a year? What impact does the thyroid have?
I am not an internal medicine physician. I am a doctor. What I do know about the thyroid is that the thyroid can affect one's mood and anxiety, whether one is pregnant or not.
So is it fair to say that thyroid levels are important in evaluating a woman who is in postpartum?
It's one tiny component of the entire.
Component.
It is one component.
Okay.
Okay.
So what does that mean?
It's one of the.
It's a tiny component. What does that mean?
Okay,
Can you let her finish?
sure. You'll let her finish. Go ahead.
It's one of the test that can be done when a patient is admitted.
Okay, was it done by McLean Hospital?
No.
What?
No.
Are you aware that your records indicate that she had a thyroid read that are part of the records?
My recall is that the TSH was not from 2022 or 2023.
Right. It was from 2000 and what? From
I wouldn't know. You'd have to refer to the record.
So in other words, it was imported into McLean records by, I guess, computer access or something from MGH years before, right?
Things move forward, yes.
I'm sorry?
Labs do populate from the past.
Okay, so in the past, as a psychiatrist, as her treating psychiatrist at McLean Hospital, trying to do an investigation, evaluate this woman to tell her what your diagnosis was and what you guys can do to help her out, did you look at the thyroid reads?
It was one of the labs that I would have reviewed.
You would have reviewed. Okay, as you're sitting here today, do you have any memory about what the thyroid reads were?
It was within normal limits.
And that would be coming from how long before? A year, 2, 3?
I don't remember.
So there were no actual thyroid tests done while she was at the hospital at McLean, right?
No.
What is the Edinburgh, the EPDS or something like that? What is that?
It's a scale.
A scale. What kind of a scale?
It's a postpartum scale for depression.
And it's used by psychiatrists and psychologists to evaluate the risk factor of a woman who is involved with postpartum, right?
I think it's to assess the level of depression.
In a woman who's involved with postpartum, not some guy that got injured on a soccer field, right?
Yes.
So what does the EPDS mean? I'm probably butchering that. What is that an acronym for?
Edinburgh's postpartum depression scale or something.
Okay. The Edinburgh postpartum depression scale. Was that administered to Lindsay when she was in for the 4 days and a half that she was in your hospital?
No,
Why not?
because we don't necessarily administer scales.
You don't necessarily what?
We don't administer scales.
Why? That's an accepted tool to evaluate a patient as a psychiatrist or a psychologist, isn't it?
It is a tool, but it doesn't in the end determine the diagnosis.
Oh, no, of course not, because the doctor who supposedly has access to the person's medical history and all of the other aspects of your evaluation is the one that gives the diagnosis, right?
The psychiatrist makes the diagnosis based on the presentation, the history of the patient.
Right. So far what we've got is a presentation of the patient who was in the locked wards at McLean Hospital, and the presentation was from her, right?
Her presentation is how she presents, how she is observed. It's not what she's telling us.
Well, isn't what she's telling you part of what you consider?
Yes.
Okay. And what Patrick's telling you is part of what you consider?
Yes.
So other than what Lindsay, who was in the locked ward, tells you, and her husband who tells you, what, if any, investigation did you do?
We did not do any additional collateral contact.
And you didn't do any tests either, right? You didn't do it. Did you do a blood test?
Psychiatry as a field is not dependent on blood tests. If it was that simple, it would be much better for everybody. It's based on the evaluation of the patient who's sitting in front of you.
So you're suggesting to this jury that it's not a valid medical step for one to take blood from a person who is on a cocktail of drug medications to find out what their levels are?
No, not a regular procedure at all.
Okay. Now, McLean did not take any blood. McLean did not do the Edinburgh scale, but that would be something that you would be interested in, right, as to whether or not anyone else gave her the Edinburgh depression scale.
Let me clarify one thing. McLean did draw blood. They did do testing. There was no testing for levels of drugs. Just
okay.
let me clarify that.
That's fine.
Okay.
So they took a CBC or maybe a blood count evaluation, but it had nothing to do with what was on board, as they say, as far as tricyclics, antipsychotics, SSRIs, anything, right?
They check for substances of abuse, but nothing else.
Well, there were no substances of abuse in her blood, were there?
No.
How about the tricyclics, the antipsychotics, the SSRIs, the benzodiazepines, the Z drugs that they call some of their categories? They didn't test for that, did they?
Those are not tested on a regular basis.
How about on her basis?
I don't know why I would have tested for those.
Well,
what would have been the indication?
How about if she presents, and the history that she's giving you is that she was on a number of drugs for that 3-month period or 3.5-month period? Would it be of interest to you as to what was on board in her blood?
Medications have different half-lives. So if she had taken something, it would depend on what the half-life was. If it was a day, it would be out of her system. We would not be able to catch it at that time. It would depend on what she'd been taking and, what was in her bloodstream at that point.
So the admission note that was noted in the medical records would be on page 64 of the medical records that you were presented by the district attorney.
I don't remember what page it's on, but
that's understandable. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Can you tell me what I'm looking at? Exhibit 79, page 63. And that would be the record from McLean Hospital, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what this means when it says clinical summary?
That's the social workers note.
Okay. And is that
Can you, Doctor, can you maybe move that microphone just so that
Sorry about that. That's the social worker's note?
Correct.
And that's what the district attorney was questioning you on when she referred you to symptomology?
It was this a conversation with Patrick? I'm not sure I don't recall what you're talking about.
All right. You can read along with me, all right?
Okay.
Clinical summary says the case was discussed in rounds, and would that be like on Grey's Anatomy, you have rounds and they see patients in the rooms and that type of thing? No. What does it mean when it says in rounds?
It's when we meet in the morning, the social worker, the psychiatrist, the nurse, and the charge nurse, the utilization reviewer.
Okay. So that's why it says on page 63, discussed in rounds, SW and PIC met with Lindsay as part of the intake interview, right?
Yes.
Okay. Presenting problem, then it says HX, that's history, right?
Mm-hmm.
And psychosocial HX history was discussed, correct?
Yes.
At that point, she stated that she was hoping to be home by next weekend for her daughter's birthday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that then she relates her history as far as having a third baby on May 26th. That would be Callan, right?
Yes.
The youngest baby. And she then told you all that 12 weeks after she delivered, the baby wasn't taking the bottle. It was around the time that she was supposed to go back to work. husband also went back to work, and she was experiencing a lot of, and then someone puts in quotes, situational anxiety. Is that correct?
That's what it states.
All right. So as a result, is that coming from her, or that word situational anxiety, was that her words because it's in quotes, or was that you guys put that in there?
I didn't write that note.
Okay. But you factored that in your investigation, right?
I read it.
Okay. And as a result of this, she subsequently saw a psychiatrist that prescribed her Zoloft, right?
Yes.
And that would be Dr. Tufts, right?
Yes.
And 1 week after prescribing that, it says, after 1 week of taking it, that she developed insomnia, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's an indication of a reaction that the patient had to the medication that was prescribed to her, being the SSRIs, Zoloft, right?
It could be a side effect, yes.
Could be, okay. And the psychiatrist told her to stop taking Zoloft, right?
That's what it states.
And do you know from your investigation and your evaluation of Lindsay Clancy, when the doctor told her to stop taking Zoloft? It was like, I mean, you can guess, it was like a week later, a couple of days later?
It would be, if I don't recall off the top of my head, but if that information was available, it would be in my note.
Do you know, can you find your note in here? I just don't know how to navigate that. Would it help you if you had a break or a little recess just to look at this?
No.
No?
I can find it right now.
Doctor, you'd agree with me that your notes are contained in Exhibit 79, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And one of the things that you had mentioned was that at the end of Lindsay's treatment at your hospital, she was discharged, ultimately, correct?
Yes.
And that was not against medical advice, was it?
No.
And finally, you had made reference to the fact that postpartum psychosis is a serious consideration for you when you or your staff when you're evaluating a patient in McLean, correct? For
Yes.
postpartum. And one of the recommendations that you made was that she should follow up with other healthcare providers. And if I understand correctly, she actually sent a text or an email or something and confirmed that she did within the hour, right?
She made an appointment with Dr. Tufts for the next morning.
Right, and she told you guys that, right?
She told the social worker that.
So she was very responsive to your advice about you should reach out to your provider, and she did that, right?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. All right. Counsel redirect?
Dr. Goodheart, you're familiar with the discharge paperwork that a patient gets, right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 146. Is that familiar to you?
Yes.
And you know that to be discharge paperwork for, or what's called the after visit summary for Lindsay Clancy at her stay from McLean, correct?
Yes.
And in this discharge paperwork, there's actually two packets. So it's pages 1 of 6, and then there's another one of 7. You see that?
Yes.
And it gives instructions on if you need immediate help. It gives phone numbers, right?
Yes.
It gives a crisis plan and where to call for the suicide prevention lifeline, right?
Yes.
It gives instructions on what the patient's supposed to do or what you've talked about as far as what to do as follow-up, right?
Yes.
And in this instance, it says, what's next? Call Cassandra Wolfson. Give her a call for assistance with finding community behavioral health providers. And that's identified as the Blue Cross Blue Shield case manager, right?
Yes.
And was that based on a conversation that you had with Ms. Clancy about the fact that she wanted a new provider?
She had a psychiatrist or a prescriber she stated that she was going to be assigned a therapist by the individuals at the South Shore. And if she wanted to have more options or more choices, she could always call that person to get more choices.
So she was looking for an additional provider?
Yeah.
Okay. And also part of this discharge packet, you see that there's a section that's labeled community services, right?
Yes.
And there are a number of online resources, as well as the direction to contact your primary care physician and insurance company, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so these are resources that were discussed and told and available to her when she was discharged from the clinic.
Yes.
Now, in addition to the resources that were given at discharge, you're aware she did participate in particular groups that would have given her some information and skills while she was there, right?
Yes.
And those skills were about illness and symptom management, correct?
Yes.
Self-compassion was another one, right?
Yes.
I'm going to object. This is beyond the scope of cross, which is, I think, a legitimate objection. So,
All right. Sustained.
Counsel on cross-examination kept referring to this, the unit at McLean as the locked unit, right? You
Yes.
remember that line of questioning? And fair to say, it is locked for the safety of the patients, right?
Yes.
And in this circumstance with Ms. Clancy, when she arrived from Mass General via ambulance, she voluntarily agreed to be at this locked facility until it was safe for her to leave.
Yes.
Now, when she came in, she was identified, I think you said, as low risk
Yes.
and at the lowest level of checks, correct?
Yes.
And she was very vocal with you about how long she wanted to stay and when she wanted to leave.
Yes.
And you respected that and you worked with her to come up with a plan, correct?
Yes.
And when counsel says she wasn't discharged against medical advice, would you have preferred more time with this patient to assess her symptomology?
objection.
Overruled.
I think you're asking me to go back and do.
Well, at the time, let's talk about the time that you had the conversation with her about leaving
Yes.
early.
Yes.
You said her original plan was to stay till at least Friday, right?
I think I didn't have a set time on when she would leave. I take it a day at a time based on how the patient is doing.
And at the time that she indicated that she wanted to bump up her discharge to Thursday,
Yes.
had you had the opportunity to observe her symptoms for more than a day or two?
Yes.
Had you been able to identify if any of the issues that she came in with were resolved?
Yes.
And so she was sleeping better, right?
Yes.
Was there any indication that her mood had vastly improved?
Her mood had improved. I don't know what you mean by vastly.
Well, did you have enough time to get to the root causes of why she was having the insomnia or why she was feeling numb?
No.
Okay, and so with more time, would that have been something that you could have explored more at least?
Yes.
And you were asked on cross-examination about asking Lindsay Clancy to sign releases, and you said that you did not do that in this case, correct?
Yes.
With more time with a particular patient, is it possible that you could have determined that you needed that more information and then asked her to sign releases?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, as far as your protocol for asking for releases, is it something that you do with every patient?
No.
What are the circumstances that would lead you to ask for releases to be signed?
Again, it's outside the scope of cross objection.
No, overall, I'll allow that.
It depends on how the patient is presenting, whether they appear they appear reliable, whether their history that they're giving is consistent across different times when they were evaluated. For example, she was evaluated in the emergency department in the CEC, then on the unit by Dr. Madwa and myself. And also we had obtained collateral information from Patrick. And so I didn't feel like there was any urgent need to obtain the collateral from the other providers, and she was telling us what she liked and what she disliked about what the providers were doing.
Okay, and so you were responding to those conversations in
Yes.
coming up with a plan.
Yes,
And again, the team is not just you and your team, but also the patient as well.
yes,
And during this time period that she was there, in addition to what she was reporting, you were also making observations of her.
absolutely.
And was there anything inconsistent about what she was reporting to what your observations of her were?
No,
When she arrived at McLean, you were advised of what medication she had been on, correct?
yes,
And any of the treatment plans that you or any of your colleagues recommended, did they require different medications?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, you were asked about the blood work.
Yes,
And so you indicated that McLean does draw blood upon admission, right?
Yes.
But that you did not look at the blood work or ask or evaluate it for levels of medications.
correct.
Was there any reason to do that based on the medication regimen that you were advised that she had been on?
No,
And with your treatment plan as far as medication, would there have been a reason to do that to either verify or not verify that she already had things in her system?
no,
You were asked on cross-examination about the defendant reporting that she complained of brain fog or being foggy. Do you recall that?
yes,
Do you also recall that she was observed by nurses to have improved memory and improved concentration, over the time that she had been at McLean?
yes,
You were asked on cross-examination about suicide hotline. And
Yes.
are you familiar with suicide hotlines?
yes.
And what do they assess for when you call one?
Imminent, like risk, and if somebody's calling and they're feeling suicidal, I think the point is for them to send somebody or to help them through it.
So it's a point of intervention, correct?
Correct.
But in order for a person to receive intervention, they have to identify that they have an intent or a plan.
Yes,
And to your knowledge, based on your experience and your conversations with this particular patient, did she ever indicate that she ever said she had a plan?
no,
You were asked some questions about the DSM-5, and I actually have a big version of the most recent version, the DSM-5 TR, meaning text revision. You're familiar with this book?
thank you for clarifying that. Yes,
And counsel asked you some questions about postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis and whether they appear here in the DSM-5.
Yes.
Recall that line of questioning? And fair to say they do appear. They're not their own category, correct?
yes,
But they do appear in conversation of bipolar disorder 1, having major depressive symptoms or episodes, as well as psychosis.
yes,
And it's very brief mention, but it's in here. Is that correct?
yes,
And as a psychiatrist, this is just a tool that you could use.
yes.
What other things do you rely upon when making a diagnosis other than a tool like this?
Observation of the patient, the history that they're relating, the information from family and other, that's essentially it, and other records if available.
Okay, and you use that information based on your own training and experience
Yes.
to come up with a diagnosis.
Yes,
And your diagnosis, does that have to agree with anyone else?
no,
And when you're treating a patient that comes before you for help at McLean, you're treating the patient in front of you, or you're treating the patient from several months ago?
You take the history into consideration, but you're treating the patient in front of you because that's the presentation.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, Mr. Reddington?
No, thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
All right,
Thank you.
Doctor.
Thank you.